as a weaker feature. It's also going to be windy across the northern half of the country. Though for England, Wales, we're looking at a fair bit of cloud, the odd spot of rain, but again, some brighter conditions coming our way. And these are the temperatures, so cooling down from the north where we've got that cold front, but still relatively mild as we push further south, 14 to about 15 degrees. It's as we head on into Friday, it looks like it's going to turn colder, especially in the north and the east. And we could well see some snow, especially on the mountain tops of the north and the east. But then as we go through the ensuing few days, we lose the 13s and it does turn that bit colder. John and Sarah.
All right, so winter is coming, Carol, yeah?
Well, it looks like it is, John, but our models aren't playing ball.
No, stop there. I just wanted a corny link. Thank you.
And if you didn't get it from that, then perhaps this will give you more of a clue. It is, of course, Game of Thrones we're talking about. This is the tunnel of ancient beech trees in County Antrim, known as the Dark Hedges, and they featured on the show very briefly, but clearly struck a chord with people.
Became iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 of those magnificent trees, though, are going to be felled today because they're not actually safe, and there are fears that more of them could face the axe in the future. Our Ireland correspondent Sarah Gervin has more.
Just a few seconds on Game of Thrones was enough to turn the Dark Hedges in County Antrim into a global tourist hotspot. The show might have ended in 2019, but Game of Thrones tourism is still big business and brings millions of pounds into the economy every year. Northern Ireland was a key filming location for the worldwide hit show, and images from some of the country's most beautiful landscapes were aired in more than 200 countries. When the Dark Hedges was planted in 1775, there were about 150 beech trees forming the famous tunnel. Now, only around 80 are left. Time has taken its toll over the centuries. Some trees have fallen to storm damage, others old age and disease. And this morning, work begins on felling another 6 because their condition could cause a danger to the public. Traffic was banned from the rural road in 2017 in a bid to protect the remaining trees. It had been struggling to cope with vehicle numbers after becoming a major. Owners say the influx of tourists has done little to prolong the lifespan of the tree tunnel. After a recent report found that the majority of the trees are now in a poor state, attention is turning to what can be done to preserve what is left of this much-loved beauty spot.
And they're spectacular. Well, that report was by our Ireland correspondent, Sarah Gervin, who is, as you can see, at the Dark Hedges this morning. Sarah, morning to you. You were explaining they're happening for safety reasons, so very good reasons, but still pretty sad day.
Yeah, it is. John talks about winter is coming. I think winter is here by the looks of this weather this morning. But the Dark Hedges was a story that began 250 years ago. But how many years does that story have left is the question that's being asked this morning. Well, joining me is Caroline McComb. She is a coach tour operator. Caroline, thanks for joining us in the rain. You know better than anyone, Game of Thrones is still massive business in Northern Ireland. You have a tour that comes here every day. As more trees are removed, what are your concerns about that?
Well, we really have to do everything that we can to try and prevent the loss of this beautiful site. And it's important that we are all respectful in our use of this. And it's important that people know how to behave in a way that is respectful while they're here.
Over the years, there have been many options looked at. We can see some replanted trees just behind you. We know this road was closed to traffic apart from access in 2017. What would you like to see be done to make sure these trees can last as long as possible?
Well, it's really important that us take some responsibility for this. It's great that all of us who are working on the ground do communicate that message to the people that we bring here to be respectful of the area, and that we respect that we can't bring vehicles along this road now. But it's so important that government takes responsibility for this and applies funding that's needed for the preservation of this beautiful area.
And Caroline, with those big crowds, with the tourism, there have been problems. You can't, deny that. There have been trees carved into, litter dumped, irresponsible parking. You and people in your industry have a responsibility too. How seriously do you take that?
We take that absolutely seriously, and that's why every day on our tours we make it so clear to the people that we bring here that not only along this area that we're coming to places that people live and work, but also areas that we want to leave in the way that we found it, and we want to make sure that we treat it with the decency that it deserves, and that it is protected for the people who will come after them, hopefully for years to come.
Okay, Caroline McComb, thanks for joining us this morning. Sorry about the rain. Well, in the next couple of hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours, work will begin to fell 6 of the trees here at the Dark Hedges. But we are told that a recent survey found that up to 11 of them may be in such a poor state that they may cause a danger to the public. So in the big picture, there is, I guess, an acceptance that these trees aren't going to last forever. Their life expectancy is actually 150 to 200 years. So to get them to nearly 250 years, they're actually doing quite well. But there is also a hope that if everyone pitches in together, be that tourists, locals, all the interested agencies, that this very special beauty spot that is much loved by so many people can be enjoyed for at least another generation to come.
Absolutely. Sarah, thank you so much. They're giving you a bit of shelter from the rain as well this morning, aren't they? They're doing their job. Thanks very much indeed.
Now, still to come on breakfast. Here's something to give you a happy Monday. Indie music legend Shaun Ryder will be joining us on the sofa for a chat about his new tour with Black Grape, which starts later this week. He'll be here at around 10 to 9.
Of course, he was in the jungle as well, wasn't he? He did I'm a Celebrity.
He was. We can ask him about that as well.
Yeah.
Twice, actually. I think he went back.
Loves it. Right, it's coming up to 8 o'clock. We'll have all the headlines for you in just a moment. First, let's get the news, the travel and weather from the breakfast teams around the UK. See you in a second.
Hello, I'm Janet Gallagher with the news in the south. Thames Valley Police is appealing for witnesses after a 20-year-old woman was raped in Oxford. She was approached by a man who took her into St Clement's Churchyard off Marston Road between 3 and 3:30 on Sunday morning. Southampton City Council says it may be forced to ask for emergency financial help from the government. The authorities already axed 150 jobs and is facing a deficit of £15 million this year and 38 next year. Parking charges will go up, as will tolls on the say the budget's been mismanaged. Work to dismantle and move 2 war memorials in Portsmouth starts today. The memorials at Clarence Parade in Southsea suffered structural damage during the recent storms, leading to fears their foundations may be unsafe. There was already a plan to move the memorials when coastal defence work starts next year. They'll be reinstated once that's complete in 2026. The odd light shower, highs of 13 degrees. And on the roads, the M27 eastbound is partially blocked. That's due to an accident between junction 11.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Just coming up to 8 o'clock. Breakfast today with Sarah Campbell and John Kay.
The government's former chief scientific advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance, giving evidence today.
31 premature babies who were evacuated today.
The drugs that save lives, but
It's a challenge. It's not going to be easy, but why not?
can't be worth the Brexit.
Nigel Farage meets his fellow campmate on the new series of I'm a Celebrity.
In sports, dancing their way to Germany, they're off. Scotland sign off their qualifying campaign in thrilling. The fans celebrate reaching Euro 2024.
Good morning. We've got some rain currently pushing across the southern half of England. It will clear quite quickly. Then most of us are going to have a cloudy day with 1 or 2 showers, with more persistent rain arriving in northeast Scotland later in the day. I'll have all the rest of this morning's programme.
Good Good morning. It is Monday, the 20th of November. Our main story. It's the start of a big week for the COVID inquiry, which will hear evidence from scientists who helped to shape and explain the government's response to the pandemic.
The former chief scientific advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance, whose diaries from that time accused Boris Johnson of chaotic leadership, he is today, followed by others, including the chief medical officer, Sir Chris Whitty, over the next few days. Here's our health reporter, Jim Reid.
Patrick, over to you.
Thank you very much. Numbers are increasing, and they're increasing across Europe and in the UK.
Sir Patrick Vallance was up there at the Downing Street podium in some of the darkest days of the pandemic.
We're also recommending increased social distancing. That's the phrase that you hear.
The inquiry has heard extracts from his private notes or diaries, written in what lawyers described as a brain dump at the end of a stressful day.
Sir Patrick Vallance notes in his evening notes, number 10, chaos as usual. On Friday, the 2-metre rule meeting made it abundantly clear that no one in number 10 or the cabinet office had really read or taken time to understand the science advice on 2 metres.
We can't possibly lose this now.
And later in the week, the government's current chief scientific advisor, Dame Angela McLean, and the head of the Health Security Agency, Dame Jenny Harries.
So we will follow the science. We'll be guided by the science at all times. And that's why
I don't know what it is, right? I was typing stuff earlier. I'm live on YouTube, Facebook, and I've also got X, which is Twitter, homepage, and a picture of me. And I did try and type a few comments and share my views and everything, and it decided not to let me. And now I can't type. I don't know what I can't type on this. So I'll have to get on to where did I get that? Let me think now. Curry's, I think. I'll have to explain to them what's going on. You know, if I can't type, that's no good to me, is it? Really? I mean. A dad body. That was Matt's Baker's and the section units. Section units were giving me sodium evaporating depot injections. And I was actually coming out and I was sitting with William Beanie, the Saints football player. And he was sitting at Matt's Baker's and I was spending probably £20 a day. And I put on so much weight. I got fatter and fatter, and I'm still quite fat now. It's terrible, really. But I blame Matt's Baker's and the NHS for making my body go to pieces. I actually look terrible. Yeah, and not on top of that. On top of that, right? I moved to this place in October '99. The first thing I'd done was dig away the hill. And put in a path and a lawn and a fish tank, not a fish tank, a pond with fishes. The Vivid Homes put the fishes in a bin, right? It went in the newspapers. It was in the Daily Echo. I'm at 61 Cox Road, Chelmsford, Eastleigh Hants. And if you ask the Echo if you can go back to around about, I'd say about October '99. So about the year 2000, I was doing the garden straight away. The first thing I've done was make it nice, and this is how nice I made it. The tiles, they dug away all the tiles. At the end, there was a little fish pond with fishes in it. They put the fishes in a bin. They ruined the garden, Vivid Homes, and I actually designed the railings at the top of the path. I designed all that. I drew a picture of the railings and what I wanted, and they done that. But they tried to blame me for destroying all the garden and putting all the fishes in the bin. They said it was a health and safety risk. But they actually never did put a fence at the top. It was never there. Yeah, so I've got a case against Vivid Homes, brutality, fucking destroying everything I've done, and I blame them, and they blame me. Yeah, but they're shit, really. Really.
West Bank. Labour has been divided over its support for a humanitarian pause in the conflict, with nearly a third of its MPs defying leader Sir Keir Starmer and calling for a ceasefire. Russell Brand has been questioned by the Metropolitan Police over allegations of historical sex offences. An investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times and Channel 4's Dispatches programme revealed claims of rape, sexual assaults and emotional abuse against the actor and comedian, which he denies. The Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, is preparing to deliver his autumn statement on Wednesday amid speculation that he may be planning to cut either income tax or inheritance duty. Our chief political correspondent, Henry Sethman, is in Westminster for us this morning. Henry, from your conversations with people in the know, what do we think? What's the best guess? What would you put your money on as to what's going to be announced on Wednesday?
Some sort of tax cut is coming, and I think the fact that I'm even saying that shows how far the conversation has moved in the past few weeks, because not long ago, Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, was saying that tax cuts in this autumn statement would be all but impossible. What's changed? Well, the economic data has changed slightly. The government has hit its own target to halve inflation by the end of the year, although it's still well above the 2% that they generally want. And also, higher than expected tax receipts, itself partly a result of inflation and high tax, means that the government has about, we think, £25 billion or so to play with here. So how are they going to use it? Well, there's been lots of speculation about an inheritance tax cut. I'm pretty sure that isn't going to happen. I'm told that this is a budget that will focus, the government says, on growth, and they don't think that inheritance tax is the right way to stimulate growth, though Jeremy Hunt is likely to return to that before the election, probably in the budget in the spring. So what might you get? Well, I think the likeliest candidates for a tax cut are income tax or national insurance. Which is likelier? Well, Rishi Sunak ran a leadership campaign against Liz Truss last summer, where the key bone of contention was that he warned that tax cuts in a period of high inflation risked making inflation worse. And of those two tax cuts, national insurance is thought to be less inflationary, so perhaps that might be where we see the government using this money that it has to use to cut taxes. But politically, there is a question. The government clearly wants to tell voters that it's putting money back in their wallets. Whether that will wash when it was on this government's watch that taxes became so high, whether it will wash
during a period when people are still feeling the squeeze of inflation? I don't know, but it is increasingly clear that the government is going to try.
Thank you, Henry, and only 2 days to go till we find out for sure. The people of Argentina have elected a far-right populist as their new president. Javier Milei won nearly 56% of the vote in a tight campaign that centered on the country's struggling economy. The former US President Donald Trump sent his congratulations on social media, saying the new leader would make Argentina great again. The Grammy-winning singer Shakira is due in court in Barcelona on charges of defrauding the Spanish tax authorities. She's accused of failing to pay more than 14 million euros between 2012 and 2014 and could face up to 8 years in jail if found guilty. Shakira denies the charges. The former US First Lady, Rosalind Carter, the wife of President Jimmy Carter, has died, aged 96, after being diagnosed with dementia in May. Her husband, who was in the White House from 1977 to 1981, described her as his equal.
It's 13 minutes past 8 and now he's won a bronze medal representing England at the European Blackball Championships.
Yes, this is Neil Jones and his partner. They won more than £2 million back in 2010. The 59-year-old, who gave up work to concentrate on pool, says his success was down to all the extra practice he got in.
He looked just as happy with that win as he did with his original lottery
So
win.
the big question, was he always good at pool, or is it just the fact that you've got enough money and all you need to do is, you can just practice all the time?
Practice.
You become a medal winner.
He's done well. Medal eater by the looks of it as well. 13 minutes past 8. Carol's got the weather for us this morning. Oh, those leaves. Not many leaves left on the trees, Carol.
No, indeed, John, and it's going to be windy as well this week. We'll see even more of them fall off. Good morning. What we have today is a mixture. There's some rain, there's quite a bit of cloud, and it's actually feeling quite mild for the time of year. You can see this little area of cloud here. This is steadily eastwards. We have another band of cloud producing some spots of rain, and another one across the far north of Scotland, which will sink southwards during the course of the day. So it's a cloudy start in the north with some spots of rain. Across the central lowlands, the South Highlands, we are looking at some sunshine. Then we run into our weather front across southern Scotland, northern England and Northern Ireland, producing cloud and patchy rain and some showers across parts of Wales and the southwest. But in between, what you'll find is there will be some brightness developing, winds clearing away. Now, it's going to be a windy day across the north, across the east and across the west, with temperatures 7 to 14 degrees. Into this evening and overnight, we start skies across Northern Ireland and Scotland with some mist and fog patches forming, and it's going to be cold enough for quite a sharp widespread frost. Scotland, especially sheltered glens, come further south, and the temperature. And now back to John and Sarah.
Okay, Carol, thank you very much indeed. Back with Carol a little bit later.
Now, 3 drugs which are used to treat cystic fibrosis may no longer be prescribed to new NHS patients in England, Wales and Northern Ireland because they're too expensive.
Yes, a consultation into the proposal ends this Friday, with the final decision expected to be announced in March. So, two who face an agonising wait for that decision to be made.
We found out when he was 3 weeks old. I'd never even heard of it. And I just remember being absolutely devastated.
There is no cure for cystic fibrosis. It's a genetic, life-shortening condition affecting around 11,000 people in the UK.
To be told that your child is only expected to live to 41 is heartbreaking.
Those who have it, like 7-year-old Mikey, have inherited a copy of a faulty gene from both parents.
When we were told that he's got this lung disease and that he'd inherited it from us, and again, me and Dale didn't know that we were carriers.
Kaylee and Dale have shared Mikey's story on social media.
Other people would be able to cough and bring up quite easily. So it's lots of stints where we've had to go to the hospital.
But 18 months ago, new medication transformed Mikey's life. What impact has this medicine had for you?
Well, I don't cough after my nebulizer, and I can keep up with my friends in the playground, and it gives me more energy.
You're doing well, that's really lovely.
You can't get him to stop. He's got all the energy that you'd ever wish for, not coughing. We've hardly ever gone to the hospital since.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time he was on antibiotics.
What impact does this drug have in terms of long-term prognosis and the future?
There's evidence to show that that might extend people's lives to around 80 to 82 years old, which is in line with the general UK public. So it's quite literally doubling people's life expectancy.
Mikey's medication is called Kaftrio. It can cost the NHS around £160,000 per year per patient. That's too expensive, according to the health spending watchdog, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. In draft guidance, it said the NHS should no longer provide it to new patients, along with two other cystic fibrosis drugs, Simkevi and Orkambi. As Mikey already receives the medicine, his supply won't stop. If finally agreed, this change would only affect new patients. But in January, Mikey will have a new baby brother.
We know that the baby has cystic fibrosis and has exactly the same genes inherited from us as Mikey has got. However, he comes under this umbrella of potentially not being able to have the medication.
You could potentially be in a situation where you have one child who has access to this drug, another child with the same condition who does not have access to this drug.
That's right, yeah.
What's your message to the people who will make this decision?
I would love for them to come and tell our second son when he's old enough why exactly they think that his life isn't worth the same as his brother's. I think it's disgusting that this has even been thought about. He was very sweet and actually said yesterday that he would share his medication with his little brother.
I just want to share them with him so he could be healthy like me.
As yet, no final decision has been made as to whether or not these drugs will still be made available to new patients via the NHS. A consultation is underway until November the 24th. Final guidance is expected in March. So the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence says it's evaluating the cost effectiveness of the medicine so that, quote, taxpayers continue to get value for the money. What's your reaction?
It's laughable, really, isn't it? It sounds like a complete joke. The NHS spends money on helping people quit smoking. We pay for drug addicts to go and get clean needles. But apparently a genetic disease that children are born with is not value for money. It makes me extremely angry.
If you take the drug away, you basically replace the cost in hospital admissions, operations, lung transplants. The list just goes on.
Until now, the medicine that's helped Mikey has only been available to children aged 6 or over. Families with younger children with cystic fibrosis have been hoping that age limit would come down. Jess and Will's daughter, Ottilie, is 2.
As it was shown to be so effective, they were then reducing that age. And it was 12 until recently, and then it got dropped to 6. And we were hoping that very soon it would drop to 2.
Last week, there was good news.
We are so thrilled about the recent announcement from the government to license Kaftrio for 2 to 6-year-olds. The news is honestly the best Christmas present we can ask. But obviously, among huge pressing concern that funding will be removed for children with CF who aren't born yet, but also the children who aren't eligible, and that is very worrying for the CF community.
This latest development won't help Kaylee and Dale. They just hope their newborn son will have access to the drugs that have transformed Mikey's life. Tim Muffet, BBC News.
The story of one family. Well, Professor Kevin Southern is from the UK Cystic Fibrosis Medical Association. Joins us here. Morning, Kevin. Thanks for coming in. I mean, this drug seems to be incredibly successful with that particular family so far. I mean, how much difference has it made? Has it transformed treatment?
Well, and considering how this drug differs from the drugs that we've had in the past, the drugs we've had in the past have been based those drugs have been dealing with the results of that condition. So basically fighting fires. Addressing the inflammation in the lungs, sorting out the malnutrition. So basically reacting. But this drug actually corrects the underlying genetic problem. And it's just a tablet. So your tablet you take in the morning and at night time. And that's a real game changer in the world of cystic fibrosis. I mean, I'm coming towards the twilight years of my career, and I didn't think I was going to see anything quite as profound as this. And it came in 2020, and it's been transformational for all patients.
I mean, it's what we heard in that report there that saying that potentially life expectancy 41, but with this drug potentially 80 and maybe longer. So I mean, that just gives a sense of what a game changer that is.
You can kind of put it into perspective of thinking, say you're a 14-year-old with cystic fibrosis, and you might have very good condition, you might have good respiratory function. And the reason that you are so well is because you devote hours of every day to the treatments that you do. Basic treatments like enzyme replacement therapy, physiotherapy, many tablets, aerosol medicines like you saw Mikey taking. Every day, day after day after day. I mean, the families I work with, the CF community, are absolutely amazing in what they do. But that he might be in the school football team, he's doing really well, but it's at the expense of a really hard work. Now, this new drug comes along and he feels a bit better. He feels his respiratory function has gone from being super to being excellent. His weight has gone up, his quality of life has improved, his breathing has improved. But what he's got is a new journey in his life. He's now got a framework, and he can think about college, he can think about the career he wants to. He's no longer got this black cloud over him of, being poorly in his 30s and his 40s and literally dying in his 40s. The impact on survival will be profound. Yeah.
I guess this comes down to the classic terrible dilemma between the effectiveness of a drug and the cost effectiveness of a drug, because it's potentially so expensive. How can that be resolved? Can it be resolved?
It's really uncomfortable, isn't it? It's really uncomfortable when you see pictures and the families I look after and their dedication and so forth. It's really uncomfortable to talk about costs, but we have to, because these are high cost drugs. So cystic fibrosis is not alone in the fact that we're going to have many high cost drugs coming over the next decades, and we need in society to have a way of dealing with that. Now, the NHS is actually very good at negotiating with pharmaceutical companies to bring down the costs of drugs for this country. And the reason they're good is because we are a big market. We're a big market, and we're a very coordinated NHS as well. And we probably as a country don't appreciate, well, I think we do appreciate our NHS, but we don't appreciate how powerful that is. And NICE is part of that process.
And just take us through NICE at the moment. There are people watching within the CF community would be very worried about what's going to happen now. So just take us through the process, what NICE are looking at. It's a consultation, isn't it?
So this is an ongoing process, and Friday is when we can give in sort of more stakeholder engagement. Information goes in, and the process will evolve over the next months. But it's a bit unusual in that normally this is done before a drug is available, and as I said before, this adults and older children with CF from 2020. Last year it was available for 6 to 11-year-olds. And recently, last week, it was announced that it's going to be available for 2 to 5-year-olds. So that's all great news. And then, and we've seen the transformation within the clinic, and the transformation we see ties in with the clinical trial data. But then we get this announcement that it's not cost effective. And that's been crushing for families, really crushing, distressing and unsettling. And they're kind of going, well, where does the future go? So the NHS will need, because the contract runs out next summer with the drug company, which is called Vertex, the NHS will need to negotiate with Vertex now a price moving forward. Now, consideration, the NICE evaluation will be a part, it'll be a factor, it'll be a part of that. But there'll be, the community voice will be important as well. And the community voice is really loud in CF. You've seen the families are very knowledgeable, but they're also very passionate. So,
Professor Kevin Southern, thank you very much indeed for coming in and explaining that. It's clearly a very complex and worrying story, isn't it, for a lot of families, and some members of that CF community you're talking about in touch in some numbers this morning. Do get in touch.
I think it's not imaginable that there won't be an agreement between the NHS and
There could be a resolution. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Professor. It is 8:28. Morning Live follows breakfast on BBC One this morning. So let's find out what they've got in store. Good morning to you, Rav and Helen.
Good morning. Coming up, inflation has fallen to its lowest level in 2 years as major mortgage lenders slash their rates. Finance expert Iona Bain explains how to lock in a great offer today, even if your deal won't be ending for 6 months.
That's right. It's not just a question of when to fix, but how long for. So I'll weigh up terms for 2 and 5 years and tell you how extending the length of your mortgage or switching to interest only could help if you're struggling to pay.
Also today, we're hearing how one Morning Live viewer unknowingly handed his card details to a fraudster after receiving a fake delivery email, paying £2 fee he thought was genuine. We'll be finding out how any message that asks for money, no matter how small, should be treated as a scam.
Absolutely well said. Plus, high blood pressure affects over 1 in 4 adults. Dr. Zand explains how a new injection could switch the condition off for 6 months at a time.
That's right. So this is a drug that's still being trialled, but it could eliminate daily meds. It would be amazing if it happened, meaning you wouldn't miss daily doses. Plus, I'll be talking about all the changes that you can make to keep your blood pressure numbers under control and reduce your risk of dementia.
And it's estimated a huge £3 billion will be spent across the Black Friday sales this week. We're going to tell you which deals are worth it and why, if you're looking for a TV, you might want to wait until spring. We'll see you at 9:15. Don't get it now. Don't spoil Santa's treats.
Looking forward to that. Morning Live at 9:15.
That's great. Time now to get the news, the travel and the weather where you are.
Hello, I'm Anjana Gadgil with the news in the south. Thames Valley Police is appealing for witnesses after a 20-year-old woman was raped in Oxford. She was approached by a man who took her into St Clement's Churchyard off Marston Road between 3 and 3:30 on Sunday morning. Southampton City Council says it may be forced to ask for emergency financial help from the government. Earlier this year, its chief finance officer said bankruptcy was a foreseeable risk. The authorities already axed 150 jobs and is facing a deficit of £15 million this year and £38 million next year. Parking charges will go up, as will tolls on the Itchen Bridge, and pothole repairs will be cut back. The Labour-controlled authority says the government's reduced its funding by around £500 million over the last decade, while Conservatives say the budget's been mismanaged. A charity that helps people learn to read is expanding its services across the south.
So where's the fish dish on dinner?
There.
Lovely. Okay, brilliant. Well done, mate. That's lovely.
Read Easy in Southampton assists adults who can't or find it difficult to read and spell. They use a programme called Turning Pages. The charity, staffed by volunteers, has 56 people enrolled and is set to start off in New Milton and Lymington in Hampshire and Ryde on the Isle of Wight.
It's been really hard because not being able to read letters and things, you just chuck them in the bin, put them aside, you try and cover it in the best way you can, get around it.
We are looking for readers on the Isle of Wight, so people who feel, you know, they would benefit from our service, they should come forward and have a chat. It's all done in confidence.
Now, if you're having your breakfast, you might want to look away just for a moment because it's been revealed that mobile phones, cuddly toys and false teeth are among items Southern Water has found flushed down toilets. It says over 6 months, more than 6,000 tonnes of unflushables have been removed, items which could lead to blockages and flooding. Who puts a teddy down the toilet? Let's get the weather now with Dan.
Hello, morning. We've quieter weather on the way for later this week as a bump of high pressure builds in. But for today, very windy with some blustery showers and feeling cooler than it did at the weekend as well. Rain clearing to showers today. There will be some brighter spells, bit of sunshine every now and then, but generally quite a bit of cloud. A few further showers and windy. We've already had gusts around 50 miles an hour towards the Isle of Wight. Temperatures down a bit on where they were through the weekend. And tonight, some further showers, quite a bit of cloud, maybe a few holes in that cloud, but temperatures not dipping too far, down to around 7 or 8 Celsius. And for tomorrow, still breezy at first, still rather cloudy, chance for a few showers, but becoming largely dry, a bit brighter later, and the wind's starting to drop off. Temperatures tomorrow, though, only around 10 or 11 Celsius. Have a good day.
Now on the roads, the M27 eastbound has queuing traffic due to an accident from junction 11 to junction 12. I'll be back in half an hour, just around 9 o'clock, so I'll see you then.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining Breakfast today with Sarah Campbell and John Coe.
Westminster, with the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt set to deliver his second autumn statement on Wednesday. You might have noticed there's been a lot of speculation about what might happen in areas like taxes, benefits, and luckily we have Ben this morning to that's what's going to happen. Use your
well, I can tell you what the speculation is. If I knew what was going to happen, I'd be the envy of every journalist in the country. But I think, with this, it's been very hard to avoid those two words, autumn statement, and it'll be hard to avoid them over the next couple of days, and with good reason, because this is so important. It matters to everyone watching at home and their personal finances. Let me explain what we know so far. Good morning to you. Yeah, it's a challenging time for the Chancellor. He's being urged by some in his own party to cut taxes. At the same time, he's promised he wants to try to boost the economy, which has barely grown recently as the cost of living crisis still squeezes people's finances. So why don't we take a look at three areas? For a Conservative Chancellor, there's always pressure to cut taxes, and the run-up to this autumn statement is no different, especially as tax levels are at their highest ever. There's speculation about possible cuts to income tax or national insurance rates. The Chancellor didn't rule that out at the weekend, but he also said he doesn't want to do anything that causes the cost of goods to rise quickly again after last month's big drop in inflation. There have already been reports that he's considering slashing inheritance tax, and there have also been suggestions the government might look again at it be unfrozen.
It used to be a very popular measure with Tory backbenchers to raise the income tax threshold again to like 2016 or so. But and they froze it, and that's why they've got something like 30 or 40 billion pounds more tax money. The problem is he needs that tax money to pay for the public services that are getting more expensive all the time.
Now, Mr. Hunt has already promised this will be an autumn statement focused on this, on growth. Easier said than done. Economic output.
Say yes if you can hear me.
For the last year, and the increase in the cost of goods is now slowing, but inflation remains higher than is ideal. There's been an announcement on investment in the manufacturing sector, putting tax cuts to fuel growth.
If you were to build high-speed rail from north to south using labour, bodies, buying things, and the state was heavily engaged in that process, that could lead to growth outcomes further along the line. But the kind of iron link between it's all about taxation that is inhibiting growth is a sacred cow, but is not really reflected in reality. So tax cutting your way to growth, as I say, the Quatrain Truss theory was just that. It doesn't work then, and it won't work now.
So we've talked about taxes, we've talked about growth. Onto our final area, benefits. Again, the government has already put forward long-term proposals that would see large benefit changes for people who are unable to work due to health conditions. And there's speculation that Mr. Hunt could squeeze benefits further to save money. Typically, ministers raise working age benefits based on the September figure for inflation, so that would mean a hike of 6.7%. But the Chancellor has not ruled out using October's figure instead, which would mean a lower rise of 4.6%, and that would equate to the government saving £3 billion in spending. That would largely impact households receiving means-tested or disability benefits. So a lot to keep across. We'll also be looking out for possible changes on things like fuel duty, and there will almost certainly be more teases, speculation and reports before Wednesday. I dare say you may hear a little bit of that from me in the coming days. The Chancellor on growth has said he wanted a fizzing economy. Let's see what he unveils to try and shake things up. John, Sarah.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks very much indeed, Ben. Fully across that this week.
Now, the background might give it away. The ITV show I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here is back on our screens with a new cast of campmates battling it out to become king or... Is there a spider?
There's a big spider.
Okay, I'm just not going to look.
Luckily, it's only a virtual spider, but they're dealing with the real thing down under. They were immediately thrown into various stomach-churning challenges. In at the deep end, there was a skydive, there was a high-rise abseil, and then some live stakes. Noor and Angie was watching.
It had slime, snakes, and a terrifying skydive. Celebrities introduced themselves to viewers. One man had this to say.
But you will at least find out.
In the opening, and arguably better known for being a younger sister of pop star Britney. She, Hollyoaks actor Nick Pickard, and JLS singer Marvin Humes faced a skydive before entering the camp. Host Ant and Deck were on hand to cheer on the celebrities.
Strap yourselves in for the ride of your lives.
And the ride continues,
Nigel.
with Farage already chosen by the public to take part in the next Bush Tucker trial. Nanji, BBC News.
It started. We're joined now by TV critic Scott Bryan and former Limpy Lembit Opik, who of course was a contestant on I'm a Celebrity back in 2010. Morning to both of you. Lembit, we'll come to you in a second. Scott, how did they start?
I mean, it was very much a standard I'm a Celebrity opener. I think it's always quite interesting when the celebrities arrive at that really tall building, realising that they have to themselves to it. And then I go, hang on, this is the same thing they do absolutely every single year. Why are you shocked, for goodness sake? But I think it's very much, there's been such a lot of heat sort of rising into this series, of course, around the inclusion of Nigel Farage. He says that he's on there to sort of show his true self. He sort of opened that series saying, you might like me, you might dislike me, but you're going to certainly find out more about me. I mean, I'm sort of a bit uncomfortable with his inclusion because this is not a show